Hey everyone, today in this video, I'm going to be checking out the Sceptre 30-inch ultra-wide LED monitor. Specifically, the model number is E305B-FU200T. Sceptre did provide the sample, but any opinion expressed in this video is strictly my own. That being said, if you're interested in this monitor or you want to find out more about it, the link to it will be in the video description. Take a look at the retail box and packaging. We'll look at it from all different sides and angles. They walk you through key tech specs, the included parts and components, and some additional features on the other side of the box right there. But what you need to know is this is a 30-inch ultra-wide monitor with a 21:9 aspect ratio. The resolution is 2560 by 1080, so we have full HD. Technically, they call it wide full HD for this display, and up to 210 hertz for the refresh rate, and this is an IPS panel. Now let's go ahead, let's open it up and see what's inside. Here are all the contents. First up, we have our product literature with a thank you card, a read me first for setup instructions for stands or VESA mounting, warranty information. This does come with a 1-year warranty. And then we also have a full user guide and manual. Sceptre makes one of the best user guides out there. They literally go through every monitor setting in detail with images, charts, diagrams, all the menu settings, all the different configuration options with explanations. They do a really nice job. They also have their customer service and contact information in here for you, and they do have a phone number you can call if you have any questions. They even go through all the different resolutions supported. So 1080p up to 190 hertz, 1080p up to 210 hertz with DisplayPort. So HDMI 190 you're capped at, but with DisplayPort you can get up to 210 hertz for the refresh rate. But anyways, very helpful and relevant information. Next, we have our stand in 2 pieces. It has metal construction. We have our base screws and our neck screws there. We have the coveted and included Sceptre screwdriver. We have our power supply. It is an external power supply. So we got the power brick with the barrel connector and your typical power cable. This monitor gets the white glove treatment. We have some white gloves for the assembly process, so you don't get fingerprints all over the glossy back, which I've already done. DisplayPort cable is included, which is great because that's going to guarantee you that highest refresh rate at 210 hertz. And then last but not least, we have the monitor. Let's look at this in more detail. First up, you're seeing the back of the monitor here with the Sceptre logo and branding front and center. This glossy finish is cool to the touch, so I'm thinking it's glass. I don't really know. It's glass, plastic, not sure the material. Maybe even, I don't think it's metal, but anyways, this is really nice and it feels premium and upscale, but you definitely want to have those white gloves on. This is a fingerprint magnet, so just keep that in mind. If you don't want to wear the white gloves, that's fine, but just wipe it all down once you're done and never touch the back again. But we got the Sceptre logo and branding front and center. Really nice finish on the back. Just has that upscale vibe. Really high quality feel just from the presentation. We got our speakers, we got our monitor mount, VESA mounting, Sceptre product info. We have our navigational menu button over there. Power port, 2 HDMI 2.0 ports, 2 DisplayPort 1.4s, and audio out. Take a look from the top down too to get a feel for how thin this is, and then it gets thicker towards the bottom there. Give you that side profile from the top. Look at it from the very bottom. We have a couple of screws down here, some venting, and our Kensington security lock. And now we'll look at it from the front side right here. We have a protective cover on, which is great, that we can remove. And they have some quick instructions here. Change preset to standard to increase brightness. I guess by default it might be in eco mode, so just take note of that. Then we got the Sceptre logo and branding down here, HDMI sticker and DisplayPort sticker with the 210 hertz right there for us. Now let's go ahead, let's get this set up and try it out. All right, we have the monitor plugged in, powered on, and connected to our desktop PC. We are using display cable so we can get that 210 hertz refresh rate. Take a look here, you'll verify it from our Windows settings. 2560 by 1080, so we're getting our full resolution at 210 hertz for our refresh rate. So far, so good. Now let's take a look at the built-in menu settings. So press the button on the back of the monitor. That's going to bring up all of your menu options. So we have our power down at the bottom. To the right, we're going to have different image presets. We'll go to the top. That's going to be our volume adjustment. We'll go to the left side. That's going to be our source adjustment. And then if we go ahead and we press it again, once you bring that up, that'll take us straight to the menu. We have all of our specs right here for us quickly to look at, that nice little dashboard. Then we have our quick start options. And Sceptre does a great job explaining each individual menu option and what it means. I just want to cycle through everything for you. There's blue light and free sync. Then we have our picture settings. And again, the description lets you know exactly what's going on for each individual option. Color settings. System settings. There's the volume again, mute, and then we have a factory reset. So a very easy menu to navigate, super simple, and everything is clear and descriptive. Let's spend a minute now looking at the different picture settings. We'll see how the footage will change here. So we have standard, user, eco, FPS. We'll leave it on FPS, and then we'll switch to RTS, back to standard, and then user. So let me cycle through these quickly so you can see on the same frame how every preset looks and how it's going to change and affect the image. My advice for you is just play around with it. You can do the user setting and make your own. And then for each game or piece of content you're consuming, never a bad idea just to toggle through this really quick to get exactly what you want. Just going to fine tune it a little bit. Some of the contrast and the brightness, things like that are going to change, the blacks and the whites. Really all you can expect from the quick tweaks right here with the different image presets. So we'll leave it on standard. We'll wait for this frame. And then we'll go user, movie, eco, FPS, RTS. Standard, user, movie, eco, FPS, RTS. One more time. Cycle through those. You get the idea. Now we'll be looking at two different UFO tests. The first one up is just our frame rate test. We have different FPS values matching at the top, 210 FPS to our 210 Hertz refresh rate. So take a look at that. This just helps you get a feel for what you can expect with different FPS values, depending on what your system or console is even capable of doing. So 53, then we double to 105, and we double again to 210. That UFO looks super smooth, especially in person. Take it with a grain of salt. You're watching this from a camera recording a screen, and you're watching it on your own screen. So anyways, in person, it looks really nice, very smooth. Noticeable difference as we make that jump each time. Almost unwatchable, unbearable down here. Much better in the middle. Not perfect, very fuzzy still. And at the top, it's very clear. So it looks really good, very smooth. There's still room for improvement, don't get me wrong. But again, if you can match that higher FPS value while you're gaming with the higher refresh rate, that's going to be of benefit to you. And now for our second UFO test. This is the UFO ghosting test here. So I can just visually watch and look at the UFO going across the screen to get a feel for what sort of blurring, ghosting, everything that is going to be present here. And as I look at it, it's not too bad. So I'd say very typical for a Sceptre monitor. In fact, this might be a little bit more improved than your average Sceptre monitor here, just from what I can tell. But not bad. So again, we have our typical smearing and streaking towards the back side. Nothing's being like overshot on the front or anything. But on that back side, we do have pretty typical, you know, the white lines coming out of the UFO. Some of the yellow, his face. He's not the clearest in the world, but not bad in regards to, you know, your typical ghosting. This monitor is an IPS panel, which is great in my opinion, but one thing we have to look for is IPS glow and if there's any backlight bleed. So first up, I didn't notice any IPS glow, which is great. You never want that. You don't want anything, right? But anyways, great that we don't have any IPS glow. I guess keep in mind, technically, you could experience something completely different in regards to your panel. That can truly vary panel to panel in the manufacturing process. But anyways, with our sample here, no issues to report back. Same with backlight bleed. So I can look really, really closely and maybe a little bit along the seam right there, and then some along the top. You have just a little bit of backlight bleed. That is super common and nothing to be concerned about. It's very, very hard to see. Again, with all this stuff, typically it would only be noticeable if the room's completely black and you're staring at a black screen, and you might have to really position yourself in a certain way to see if you can notice any light creeping out along a seam or anything. So anyways, basically non-existent. Okay, I lied. After further inspection, I did notice some glowing right here on the display. Okay, this is the back of the screen, but how cool is that? That it lights up and it's illuminated right here. That was a pleasant surprise. I didn't even notice that until I turned off all the studio lights. Look at that. So cool. That is just such a nice touch. Now time for a simpler test. This is just our basic web browsing test. I just want to show you a couple different websites so you can get a feel for how responsive it is and what it's actually going to look like to use this monitor for everyday mundane tasks. So first up, we got YouTube here. Take a look at the trending page. Get a feel for how responsive it is. Obviously, we could then start watching videos, right? So how they play back, how everything's displayed. With this wider screen, you have a lot of white space, right? That'll depend on how sites are optimized. Here's The Verge, a popular tech blog. Look at all the different images, colors, how things are presented, even the ads as they appear. And we can click on an article just for fun. So let's just grab this one. Different fonts, the text, the images. And the viewing angle is superb, guys. Again, IPS displays are known for their wide viewing angles. This is amazing. I can see everything so clearly off to the side. No distortion. The colors still look accurate. All of that right there. So you don't always have to be, straight on your screen. The viewing angles are fantastic. And that wide display is really, really nice. And then lastly, how could we forget about shopping online, right? We got Amazon pulled up right here. Take a look. Super responsive. Everything looks really nice. Good news, this monitor does have built-in speakers. We're listening to it right now. I'm trying to talk over it. We have it currently set to volume 100. That's our max level here. We're playing some Music Chef. That's free music for content creators. So this is their song Dripping with Ice. Let's give it a listen at 100, and then I'll adjust the volume up and down a little bit. Now we're at volume 50, and what's interesting is there's not that much of a noticeable change, even though we just cut the volume in half. Not very noticeable. So there we go. Even 1 to 100. Really not that much of a difference. I believe it has 2 3-watt speakers. They're definitely rear facing. So maybe if you're up against a wall and obviously sitting closer to it, you might get a little bit better of a sound experience. It's actually better than I thought it would be. Again, nothing to write home about, but I always say I'd rather have built-in speakers and not need them than need built-in speakers in my monitor and not have them. Now it's time for my favorite test, input lag. So input lag is different from response time. This monitor has an advertised response time of 1 millisecond. That's with blur reduction enabled, or 3 milliseconds G to G, gray to gray with overdrive enabled. Input lag is going to basically be the amount of delay or how long it takes from when the signal is sent to when it's displayed. So let's go ahead, let's see what our results are. First up, we'll have our lowest value here at the top corner, coming in right around, looks like, we'll call it 1.5 milliseconds, 8.9, and 16.3, well within range. For those wondering, we've covered close to probably 15 Sceptre monitors, give or take a few. We've started to keep and catalog the data for input lag. So the average for a Sceptre monitor in that top quadrant would be about 4.2. So again, we're doing really good here. The middle quadrant would be 10.3. And the bottom quadrant would be 16.2. So well within range, and definitely going to finish towards the top of the pack in regards to less input lag compared to your typical Sceptre monitor. Moving right along, let's look at the color accuracy of this monitor. Using DisplayCal, you'll see the results on the screen. These are some of the best results we've ever seen from a Sceptre monitor, and some of the top, most solid results we've seen on any monitor we've tested, which is a pleasant surprise. I wasn't expecting that, but typically we get the best colors on IPS displays. So, anyways, gamut coverage is as follows: 99.8% sRGB, 84.6% Adobe RGB, and 96.6% DCI-P3. In regards to gamut volume, 142.9% sRGB, 98.5% Adobe RGB, and 101.2% for DCI-P3. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, let's see how gaming looks on this monitor. We'll be trying out Forza 5, Assassin's Creed, and Borderlands 3. Let's take a look at the footage. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about you console gamers out there. We have the PlayStation 5 connected here, and we're getting 1920 by 1080, so we're getting the 16 by 9 aspect ratio, not the 21 by 9 aspect ratio, but you won't have black bars. It'll be a full 1080p screen for you, and we get up to 120 hertz. That's what we're currently getting here. That'll just depend if your game supports it or not on the PlayStation 5. So with this monitor on a PS5, you can expect 1080p and 120 hertz. And the Xbox tells a similar story. We have the Xbox Series X connected. We're looking at 1080p resolution up to 120 hertz for the refresh rate. So that's what you can expect with this monitor on console. So where does that leave us in regards to the Sceptre 30-inch monitor? Well, let me share with you my final thoughts. Since this monitor is unique in size, it's really only comparable to Sceptre's other 30-inch monitor at this size. I think they're creating a new category. I don't really know. Monitor segment? I'm not sure. But I like the 21 by 9 aspect ratio on the 30-inch screen. It's really sleek and really cool. There's just something about it that's different, and it's pleasant to look at. My primary monitor still is a Sceptre 49-inch 21 by 9 aspect ratio monitor, so that's really the lens I'm seeing this through. I know it's substantially larger than this, but this is really a great monitor. It's actually everything I want my 49-inch monitor to be, an IPS display and have better colors. That's where this is really going to excel. The colors, the viewing angles, just the screen size, the extra real estate, but it's not like overwhelmingly suffocating or anything like that. We still have a high refresh rate if you're really into some serious gaming, 210 hertz on DisplayPort. We got built-in speakers, VESA mount. I love the light up on the back and just the premium finish to this monitor versus your typical Sceptre monitor. So they really did a nice job with the build quality, and I'm pleased with the performance of this monitor, especially when you consider the value add that's there with Sceptre products. So you definitely get what you pay for, but also at the same time, you're not paying for that much, right? So I feel like you're always overachieving and coming out ahead. Easy to use menu. My biggest complaint would just be, you know, having the external power supply. That's not a deal breaker, but it's just one more thing to have on your desk or on the floor. And I wish we had a better stand. Again, they give us VESA mount, so I can't complain too much, but I'd love to have swivel, rotation, all of that good stuff bundled into the default stand as opposed to having to get my own stand for that. But overall, count me impressed. I hope this continues to trickle up to the 49-inch version someday so that I can make that much needed upgrade myself.